Wanju ngara jerp jenang nunuk, ngara kormo jeningan ngara, ngara wang in yun karajan wang in yun yai kaiwa. Welcome, may the ancestors be with us, may the good spirit watch over us as we converse this evening. Kaiwa. The journey starts before we're born. There's a community that exists with us. And we're born into this community. And as we're born into that community, we're taken straight to the centre of it. So in the centre of this community is all the guidance, the nourishment, all of the learning and the processes we need to weave our way slowly in a spiral through this cycle and this circle. And as we're weaving our way through it, we are getting knowledge that is applicable to us, and we're also getting the thirst for new knowledge. So we call that karajan, and in our culture, karajan is the cart, which is the head, and jen is the foot. So we do the practical. In my daughter's terms, we do to learn where the Western world learn to do. And when you're born, you're given what we call a burunga. A burunga is a totem. That totem follows you on that journey, and you learn all about that totem. An example, if you're giving the balga, which is the grass tree, you learn all about the grass tree, its functions, how it's grown, where the food sources are, what happens when it breaks down, the resin comes out of it, the resin is used as a glue. So that function of the balga becomes all-encompassing. Not only is practical application, but you learn the spiritual connect. And the spiritual connect is what we call the kurundam. The kurundam is what people call dream time. And that spiritual connect links us then to other secrets within that plant. While you're learning that, someone else has got another burunga, which is the paperbark tree. Someone's got a burra, which is the mari, the jarrah, and it goes on till everyone's got a burunga. Then you learn about that burunga, and as you're doing that and going through that learning process, the elders are monitoring and watching and guiding, and they find that you get to a level where you become a teacher. You've acquired all this knowledge, you're going to pass this knowledge on. When you become a teacher, you get a second burunga. Then that second burunga may be a bird. It could be the magpie. The kurbari is linked. So all the stories of the kurbari then links you, not only your family, but the families that's connected next to you and other families that have the same burunga and totem system. So your family and your knowledge expands, and you're acquiring this knowledge both in a place, a plant, an animal, and as an elder, get your third burunga. That third burunga then links you a lot wider, and it takes you into these discussions that very rarely happens when you're at the two. Why you have the three is you're starting to make decisions. When you become a custodian, you get your fourth one. It's usually a place, and we call that a duck system. Bilya duck, Karta duck, Wardan duck, Brindan duck. These are the places, the keepers of the hills, the keepers of the rivers, the keepers of the lakes. And the Budja duck, the keeper of the land, is the elder. So that gives you that acquired system that gets you into this decision-making place. It's a decision-making place that not only links you to your family and your connect, but you have a connect into the next family through their burunga system, through their totems. You have an interlink to people that are beyond that family into another section, another region. So these links then become a shared tapestry. So no one place, plant, animal is left without someone to care for it. And in our culture, we are the carers because we're the last comers. The plants were here first, followed by the animals and then us. And how we make decisions, we have what we call a bornawangi. Bornawangi is a talking stick. It's a stick that is held by the elder, and it'll set the subject matter of the discussion. Then everyone forms these circles, mostly the elders, so these are all the the ducks will have these high levels of discussions with the message stick. Whoever's got the stick, they have the respect. So the respect is both given and received through this Bornawangi. If it's a smaller group, there's another form of using the Bornawangi. That form is the elder will stand here, he'll have the youngest person next to him, then the age is going up until the next eldest is standing on this side. What happens during that system is the youngest have the first say. And as it's going around, the elder is thinking. What the younger is saying may have been said 20 years ago, but it's said now through different lenses, through different eyes. So the elders respect that. So by the time it goes around, the elder then assess what the subject matter is about and make a decision. And give information and say to this person, your grandfather mentioned that 20 years ago. It was fantastic. What it does, it means you're on the same train of thought, you're thinking the same thing, that's really good. But you also put a little bit different on it. That's wonderful. That expands that knowledge because you're acquiring knowledge as you go and you're open to learning from youngers and elders. That openness to learning makes sure that knowledge is passed on. So you can imagine this happening for 2,000 generations. The knowledge is expanding, uninterrupted. Conflict management, we have a conflict. Okay, the circle's there, the conflict. The stick is used in a different form. The stick is put down. The elders say, we're here for a conflict resolution. It goes down. The first person who's got an issue picks it up and says, I've got a problem with this person over here. They're not pulling their weight. We're doing all the work and they're just sitting back getting the reward. Puts it down. If no one else picks the stick up that says, we're not buying into this, you've got a gripe, go and sit by the river, come back when you think you have a resolution to it, and think about what you're saying. No one's buying in. But if the person wants to have a reply and says, I am working in a different way, while you're chasing the kangaroos and all the fish and you're doing all that work that you think is labour, I am talking over here and keeping the philosophy and the stories going. They put that back. If no one else picks it up, those two will go and sit by the river or under a tree. The reason they sit under a tree or by the river or a place by the rock, it's connected to their Burunga system. And they're connected to the respect of who they are, where they are, and who's listened to them. The ancestors are here. In the same Burunga system, that tree is the same ancestral tree being handed down. Once that is done, they will come back. If a third person picks it up and says, I agree with the first one, we have to get this person out a little bit more. It's not only bad for them staying there sitting down, it's good, but bad for their health. We must get them out. Put it back. Then the elder will say, we need you to come in with us. So you're drawn into that circle again. You're not isolated out and says, go and grow up. You're welcomed into that circle. So that circle is what I want you to form very quickly now as I go to the next stage. So if there's a gap between you and someone else, just bring your chair closer so we can create a circle. That collective knowledge and that collective circles is something that every one of our cultures, regardless of our background, had. What these circles do, it links us as equals. So we all stand and sit in these circles as equals. And that's a powerful thing because you've got a collective consciousness. So you can imagine this system that operated for 2,000 generations created a balance, harmonious balance between people, place, plant, animal. So that sense of belonging and sense of place was ingrained into each and every person because they had a Burunga, they had a connect, they knew who they are and how they're connected. They also knew who was making decisions for them because they knew they'd been through a process that gave them the cultural authority to speak about who they are. Not only had the cultural authority, they had the cultural respect. So that system created that balance and harmony. And it was a knowledge system that was in a series of codes. And those codes were very difficult for the Western mind to understand because it wasn't written down. Those codes were here. So when the settlers arrived here, they didn't see the advantage of this harmonious system that existed. You only have to look back and say, we're coming from dysfunction. We're coming from disruption. We're coming from overcrowded jails, lots of sick people. We landed in a place where there's no jails and no hospitals, and people are working and living in harmony with nature. So those codes and those secrets were there. Still there today. We still have that knowledge of how that system operates and works. So let's go forward now to where we are. We're in a place where we have the Burunga becomes a black rod. The black rod is there from the 14th century to make sure people stay in line. That was a deterrent for anyone to step out of line. So you've got a system of respect to a system of fear. You also create a system of division. Let's have a government, let's have an opposition, let's have a division. So you've broken the harmonious circle. Apart from breaking the circle, you have a disruption every 4 years. So you don't have a continuous cycle that's expanding. You have a cycle that goes so far that's got to contract, because you have to get ready for the next cycle. And those small cycles are not healthy for anyone. So if you can find that the systems that are operating today, it's got issues, lots of issues. A lot of the answers to those issues lie in the system that operated here well before settlement. The knowledge is still there. How do we take the best of both worlds and get a good outcome? 97% of Australians, in my opinion, are very decent people. The 3% of us Aboriginal people have to appeal to the 97% and say, this is not only good for Aboriginal people, this is good for us. This is a system that each and every one of us were a part of thousands of years ago. But we as Aboriginal people held on to that knowledge for a lot longer, because our contact came a lot later than other people's contacts. So we're able to hold that knowledge, transfer it down through the songs, through the stories, but more importantly through our Burunga system. What's our connect? What's our responsibility? Then getting that balance takes us back to our dreaming stories. And as I mentioned, we go back to the Nyuting. The Nyuting is the ice time. The stories that come from the Nyuting. That's why we call the white people, we call them Nyutiang. Nyutiang is you come from the ice time. When the early settlers landed here, they estimated we were here for 30,000 years. Just in our generation, it's gone from 30,000 up to 60,000 now. It's going longer. So in our culture, we believe this is where we are and where we're from. And being in contact and consistently in contact with each other in that circle, in that cycle, once you become an elder, become a decision maker, you go right back into the middle of that circle again. You are nourished, you are looked after. But ancient cultures still veer elders, people. We revere the elders because they've been through that season that many times. And they have contributed to the expansion of our knowledge. They have taken us to the edge when they've gone, then they've got in the middle and says, now you go further. That's why we hold them in high esteem. Elders are our treasures. Up until the last 200 years here, we had 2,000 generations where there was no disruption. There was advancement. There was challenges. There was science. We studied the stars. We studied the plants. We studied the animals. So any form of studies, we actually did them. But we did them from internal, by being associated with them, rather than external. So we did not cut the frog up to see how it work and kill the poor frog. We became part with the frog and say, how does the frog operate here? The challenge we have, and I give to people today, is to be open, embrace Indigenous knowledge, don't be afraid of it, because if you go back deep enough, it's all of our ancient knowledge. It's our ancient connect. So those 6 seasons gives us our connect. Fertility, incubation, birth, childhood, adolescence, adult. Fertility, incubation, birth, child, adolescence, adult. It goes through those 6 seasons. So the 6 seasons are not just a weather pattern, but it's a learning system, it's a system of decision making, it's a system of connection. So my challenge to you is find your burunga, find your connection. May the good spirit be with us.